Well, playing the first violin part in Schubert always is a extremely big challenge. Not just technically. Of course, it's technically of highest standards, but it's also how you have to kind of hold the group together as well. I think with us octet, I think it's a lot. Starts from the bass in our formation, I think. So Eskom, my beloved bass player colleague, I think holds the group together actually. But still, you have holding it together and pulling it. Is these two energies I think that's needed in a big formation like this. And I think I'm for the pulling part. And to be able to do that at the same time as trying to play the right notes is usually quite a challenge.
Yeah, we are speaking about an extraordinary piece of an extraordinary composer. My task is, of course, to match and to adapt to the extraordinary input of my colleagues, especially of the first violin. I consider it's nearly like to play a concerto. I mean, most exposures are in the first violin and in the winds.
I find the viola part very interesting because as I'm used to play a lot of chamber music, I love the viola part because it has to, and especially maybe in this wonderful piece, like Daishin said, we have the upper voice of the first violin and the bass of the contrabass and the cello that very much have lots of things together. The viola is suddenly, the glue between the sound of the violins and the cello and the contrabass. So I'm in the middle. And it's not easy because I have to basically agree to this side and to be also very friendly to the upper side, and I have my comfort zone in the middle that I have to be very, I have to be very secure with it. So on the one hand, it's a very lyrical part also for the viola, but very rhythmical also, as it's doubling also a few things from the wind. So, like Daishin said, and I'm sure we can all agree, it's a very challenging, it's a very challenging part of this wonderful music.
Yes, I think I have to play with double bass very much together, but we don't only play. Not only play accompagnato, we play very often the cello part. Also, we play the theme, and for me, it's very interesting to react with the other musician who's playing. If the first violin is playing the theme, or the second violin is playing the theme, and the cello and viola and some other players. Yes, it's great music, and it's fun to play, and it's the most beautiful piece for octet. Yes, it's a reason to found this ensemble, this piece, for us. And
well, maybe the most important thing for bass is to keep time. Of course, like Daishin said, I'm on the bottom of the chord, so it has to be incredibly in tune, but also I have to all the time control the tempo somehow, And there's lots, like Christoph said, we're playing exactly the same thing, so it's very challenging to play in tune this piece. But I think the timing is the one thing I have to do.
Before we go to the winds, this is why it's important, because none of us really mentioned that the combination with the winds in this ensemble. I think one of the biggest challenges, I think for all strings, is to find the right sound that can fit also as an ensemble with the winds. This is very, very difficult. I mean, we have the best group of winds that you can ask for, the top top of the top, but yes, really. But it's very, very challenging, because when you think about a phrase, how a wind player can play it, it's usually different than a string player. So to find the right balance in this octet is very an important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to say, Amichai, thank you for the compliments. I have to say that in my part, I'm very happy to have some very nice solos. But even better, I have a lot of time to listen to my colleagues. Because I have a lot of time, like for example, the beginning of second movement, I have so much time to listen and to think about what to tell them, what they could all do better.
Oh, yeah.
And they hate me for this. So, but on the other hand, I think the horn in the Schubert octet is something that gives the octet formation a little orchestral sound. So if there's this big fortes, I try not to play too loud, but to sort of add with a lot of overtones, to add a little bit orchestra sound into this ensemble.
I can add to what Stefan said. The horn and I think the winds are adding to this chamber music, because it's all, after all, we play the chamber music piece. We added an orchestral sound, and I think if we compare it to an orchestral piece, it will be the Wagner. I think one of my colleagues said it yesterday in the car. It will be the Wagner piece of chamber music. It's a huge piece of music, and we have to sing through it and to shape our way through the phrases. And it's a big challenge, and I'm very much enjoying to sit between these wonderful guys and to have, from one side, a unite sound, a very maybe unique sound that is different from the strings and the winds, and in the same moment to try to mix with everybody and to create something that unites us all and create a new sound.
To play Schubert for me is always a big honor. Especially this octet I played many times, yeah, with different colleagues and different ensembles. But in this time, not only this time, this formation, I have a little bit the music between us. It's like a game, yeah. We are playing a solo here, and I give the solo to Daishin or to the viola, the cello. It's like really a game. But the music itself is a kind. It's touched me very much, because I have a little bit homesick to Vienna. Mm-hmm. I was in Vienna, I was studying in Vienna, and this Thema, it's really, you think you go through Vienna in the old time, and you feel this, and especially the constellation here, you can feel we understand each other so like a family, yeah, and it's really fantastic to play in this ensemble, and I hope you can feel also outside as an audition, as an audience, the same what I can feel, and that we love each other, and, right?
Yes.
And especially on this, not only on the stage, yeah. But anyway, I hope you will enjoy like we do.
For me, it was a dream to work with this ensemble, because especially for a piece like the Schubert octet, you need this perfect ensemble which is able to play chamber music on one hand and is also able to create a symphonic sound with all its richness. And for that you need members of the ensemble which are all of equal level and of equal capabilities, and so that certainly was the case with this ensemble. Each single player is an absolute master on his instrument, but also they work together so beautifully as musicians and are constantly trying to find the best version for a certain passage in the music, and so that was just a dream to work with them. I wouldn't point out any single player especially.
When you play, you need somebody who hears with the ears, as I say, with the ears of the ensemble, but outside, and who you can trust, and who tells you what you are doing, because it's different what you perceive on stage and what the director of the recording hears through the microphones.
But I think, if I may say, it's connected to what Wenzel also said, that this ensemble feels together. We have a very strong feeling of what we're thinking about having in a concert, and it's very difficult because we play something and then we go to the editing room, or where Christoph is sitting there, and suddenly we hear it and we say, what? This is the tempo, you know, we are 8 people who feels differently and trying to play together. So I think after we hear it and we understand, okay, this is the reality. Sometimes it can be wonderful because you think you did something not so good and the reality is much better and you're like, great. Usually it's not like that. So then our job is to come back to ourselves and to think, okay, how can we create again after what we heard? If it can be very easy. Either it was too slow, so we think maybe we can play it a bit faster. So it's always this discussion between what we think we hear and what is really there. But of course also Christoph is there, basically also negotiating how to create it and how this idea of the ensemble will be one. And I think this is what we're trying to do, just to gather it together and to focus it to one point, that this is how we want this Schubert to sound.
I don't know if this is part of the question, but you asked how was it possible to react to Christoph's demands? But we had played this so much, this piece, and we played already 7 times before we started to record, and it was really hard work, 9 hours the first day. But for me, it was like the best ever rehearsal we had, because Christoph said so many things I had no idea about. He was really like an eye-opener for us, at least for me. And it has been really great 2 days recording with him, because we got new ideas, and sometimes I think we already forgot yesterday's concert, some of them, but gradually they come back maybe and give us new direction. It was great.
Schubert, of course, everybody is first imagination is beautiful leader, and that's how I think people start to get to know Schubert. But Schubert has so many, just incredible amounts of fantastic music, quartets, symphonies, small violin pieces as well. There's just so much depth. Piano music, incredible piano music. So it's strange that Schubert has this. People have an image of Schubert being a leader composer, because he's just as good as everything else as well. Please.
For me, there's one very special thing about Schubert. Maybe it will sound a bit banal, but it's one of the rare composers that major themes, maggiore, is more sad, or somehow, I wouldn't say sad, but it's even more deep and in a way melancholic than I would say the minor. I know it's too much black and white, but it's very often that I find it like this, and other composers, they don't have this somehow. This, let's say, in a very simple way of describing it in their writing. With Schubert, suddenly the major is arriving, and it's not all the time just becoming a very, let's say, maggiore and happy. It's even more, deeper than the normal minor, and this is something that to think about the composer itself, how and why does it happen, but it's very unique for Schubert.
Schubert is for me a teacher for my whole life. especially his songs. I'm listening very often his songs with, for example, Fritz Wunderlich, yeah? And it's my favorite. I listen very often in my kitchen with my wife. We put on the computer and we compare it. Oh my God, it's so nice. And I try to make a kind of imitation of the voice. And sometimes I think I don't want to play the clarinet. I want to play like a singer. And I think we all have the same meaning about this Schubert, especially Schubert. It's this music. I don't know. For me, it's like clarinet is just a thing to bring out the sound, but not the music. Music is in your mind, and that's for me very important, especially in Schubert's music.
I think also that when it comes to, there's a lot of virtuose parts for the string players, but it's always very playable. It always sounds very natural and very easy if you play it well, like Daishin does or Wenzel does. But it's always very well written for the instruments, and this is a fantastic talent. Also in the symphonies you have these fantastic moments where you have nice solos, but also big tuttis. There's never a note too much and never a note too less.
I would say that the Schubert Octet has everything what music should have. It is chamber music, meaning you have a small number of players who are each very responsible and active in what they're doing, but you have the sound of a complete symphony orchestra, because the sound is so rich. When they play full fortissimo, it fills a huge place completely, but you also have the most subtle pianissimo, so an enormous dynamic range. But musically you have also everything what you can ask for. You have in the second movement you have the Schubert as a lead composer. It's basically really a lead with all the variations. You have dramatic scenes already in the beginning. The whole introduction of the piece is dramatic, and then before the last movement, this is more than an opera scene. It's absolutely frightening, and it goes to your heart, and you think, my God, what's going to happen? And then suddenly it opens up, and then this joyful last movement comes. There are the most wonderful melodies in the movements. There's also incredible virtuosity in the pieces. If someone knows how difficult it is to play the high notes on the violin in this incredible tempo, and Daishin just played it like, it's not difficult, but it is actually incredibly difficult. So it's also something to admire, simply the virtuosity of each single player, and everyone has a little or even a big solo in this piece. So you hear a wonderful clarinet theme, you hear wonderful cello solos, you hear even the double bass has a solo. Each instrument, I can count you every single one. So it's a piece which has just everything in it, and so for me it's one of the most, I wouldn't say perfect, but the most wonderful pieces, also because it just goes straight to your heart. There are passages in there which are so intense, and so they have this as who said it before? I think it was Daishin, or was it Amichai, this mixture of, as you always have with Schubert, of major and minor key, which changes with Schubert sometimes so suddenly, and it's basically the same for him, and you have joy, which is always filled with sadness, and you have sadness which always carries the hope, and that's what our life is all about, isn't it?